Hey, and welcome. I'm Dave, and you are listening to Life Is Peachy, a nostalgia-fueled podcast that allows me to sit here and waffle on about the bands and the albums that became the soundtrack to my life.
I'm back.
Growing up in the 90s, the early 2000s, and while we're at it, sharing a few memories from Her Name Is Murder Productions. Lips. It's been a minute since we've had a chance to sit together and explore, enjoy, and celebrate these bands and albums we all love and care about so much. I can obviously only speak for myself, but it feels like Mr. J. Gordon and Candy Ass was another lifetime ago. So before we get stuck into episode 28, I quickly wanted to take care of some housekeeping and lip updates. 28th of November not only marks the release of episode 28, but also my birthday. Yay! If you follow myself and the podcast, then you will probably know late April I married my amazing partner in crime, and come September 1st, Chris moved to Australia and began a new job working at an Indigenous art gallery in Sydney. This was and is such an amazing opportunity of personal, professional, and creative growth for her, and as she ventured off to the other side of the world, I stayed on in Europe to document some tours with Her Name Is Murder Productions, and as a result, we were apart for 2.5 months.
You have no idea how bad it gets.
After nearly 3 years living and breathing our beautiful home in the Netherlands, the place where I recorded every single interview and episode of the Life Is Peachy podcast, the place that provided us a haven during the pandemic, we packed up and said goodbye to that chapter of our life at the end of August, and since then I have been without a home.
Well, you can camp out here for a while.
Well, this is pretty sweet. Does this couch fold out to a bed?
Yeah, totally great bed. But that's Jenkins' bed. Your bed's over here.
I'm not by any means homeless. I just had no place of my own, no base camp or sense of stability. Living at the bunk of a tour bus, front couches, floors or spare rooms, hostels, or sleeping overnight on buses while traveling 20+ hour transits across countries in Europe. I discovered one thing, amongst many other things along the way.
Get ready for the big surprise.
Certain aspects of my life prove more difficult without that stability of a routine, a home, or an office, and one of those is most definitely the editing of this podcast. Over these last months, I have done the best I can to keep everything moving forward, intertwined between Her Name Is Murder Productions, keeping a long-distance marriage flourishing, likewise with my own mental health and self-discovery, while constantly on the move and moving around.
Idle hands are the devil's playground.
At the time of this episode's release, I can say that I have now finally made it to Australia. I was able to see where Chris has been living and working in Sydney, and I have to say just how proud I am of her, and also how surreal it was coming back from Europe to visit my home country and dive into my Dutch wife's experience living and working in Australia.
Isn't that nice?
That's a knife.
After only a week and a half together, it was time to leave and join Sepultura on their 2023 Australian tour, which also in itself is a personal milestone. After working with them since 2015 across Europe and the UK, this was actually my first time doing it with the guys in Australia, my birthplace, and where I started Her Name Is Murder all the way back in 2009.
Action.
Okay, but what's the point of this spiel? Well, I just wanted to say that no matter how busy or crazy life can get, this podcast isn't going anywhere. And as long as you give me your patience and support, I will keep bringing you these episodes no matter what. Just quickly, a funny moment that comes to mind was recently recording an interview for a classic Australian album which turned 20 this year with the singer of that amazing band. I was staying at a hostel in Glasgow, soon to join Will Haven in the UK on tour, and with the time difference between Scotland and Brisbane, the interview was taking place at 2 a.m. my time. I remember trying to find a place of solitude to carry out the interview, and with the way the hostel was designed and its various after-hour rules, drunk people coming and going, access to PowerPoints, etc., I found myself tucked away in the laundry room on the 6th floor with the door locked and only my laptop light to guide me. My point is, even if there are moments where you hear from me less, you can be sure I am hustling behind the scenes non-stop to make more episodes happen.
You guys tired?
Doc, I'll get all sleep I need when I'm dead.
So your continued support of the Life Is Peachy podcast truly means the world to me, and if you want to help so I can afford to allocate more time to just the podcast, simply joining a lip tier over at www.patreon.com/lifeispeachypodcast is the best way to help with that and will truly make that dream a reality.
Get on with the ceremony!
Now, without further ado, the reason we are all here right now, let's be honest, 20 years of Spineshanks' self-destructive pattern with Jonny Santos and Tommy Decker. September 9th, 2023 was a very special occasion. Not only did it commemorate 20 years of Spineshank's third and final album via Roadrunner Records, but it facilitated the opportunity for two original founding members of the band to feature together in the same interview at the same time, a first in over a decade. Over on the Life Is Peachy second channel, the Mixtape Sessions, back in September, where Jonny and Tommy looked back on the album and announced for the very first time the worldwide exclusive that the two of them were working on brand new music. Crazy. At the time of that original interview and edit, I was in the middle of moving house and about to upheave my life, but I knew back then that at some stage I had to celebrate this album the original Life Is Peachy way, with the music, the soundscape, and design, that full immersive experience.
You know, I can eat a peach for hours.
Decked out and buffed up with the full lip treatment, and really give Self-Destructive Pattern the extra TLC it deserves. And now, well, that time has come. Spineshank frontman Jonny and I first crossed paths early 2023 when he featured on track 4 of the Mixtape Sessions, discussing the return of his other band, Silent Civilian. You can find the relevant links in the description of this episode. But we, of course, are here to celebrate and deep dive the 20th anniversary of Self-Destructive Pattern. So let's not waste any time. The Life Is Peachy podcast is excited to welcome both Jonny Santos and Tommy Decker. Thank you both for your time and energy.
It's like looking in a mirror, only not.
How are we feeling?
How you doing? Good, man. How you doing?
Well, yeah, I'm just in the process of moving house at the moment. It's the wee hours of the morning and my wife's asleep, and so I'm in the corner of the room with everything packed up around
He's in the
me.
timeout corner.
Yeah.
That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Jonny, it's been a minute since we last spoke. How's everything going, man?
Good, bro. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm so excited for this. Thanks for making it happen and lining it all up.
Doing good, man. Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, of course. It's an honor, man. Spineshank are a very special band.
Since this is like the first time two members of Spineshank have done an interview in over 10 years, I'm kind of excited because Tom and I haven't done an interview in a long time, and we're both a couple of jackasses.
There we go.
They've always liked it when in the past when me and him do them together because it can get pretty entertaining.
Well, I'm all for it. Not that we need any convincing to celebrate the amazing music you both have made together.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And specifically, it's time to celebrate your final release on Roadrunner Records, that being Self-Destructive Pattern.
Yeah, I mean, it's not every day that you celebrate 20 years of an album you made, and it, doesn't feel like that long.
Doesn't. Feels like it was fucking yesterday.
Yeah, so that actually brings me to my first question. When you hear the sentence, Self-Destructive Pattern, 20th anniversary, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Yeah, I mean, how does it make you feel?
Old.
Yeah, definitely old, because I remember, back when I was younger, in the 80s and 90s, and you would listen to a band that was 20 years old. It was Led Zeppelin,
It was.
So it was like, this was a long, long time ago. To me, I feel like 20 years has just kind of flew by, and it really went by in a flash. It seems crazy to me. We're classic rock now.
Yeah.
To be or not to be? Not to be.
I remember my mom telling me when we were kids, we were young, she's like, don't be in such a hurry to grow up because you're going to blink your eyes and it's just going to fly past you. That's kind of how it feels. The era of that record is nostalgic now almost, you know what I'm saying? I swear to God, I don't know where the time went. I feel like it was literally just yesterday. It does not feel like 20 years, that's for damn sure. But at the same token, I think the music that we were making 20 years ago has more relevance today than when we were kids and we were listening to music that was 20 years old. Bands from the 60s and the 70s, our parents' bands, they didn't seem as relevant. They were just cool. It was good music. But I see that the kind of music that we were making at Spineshank 20 years ago is still very relevant today, which is cool.
Oh, it definitely is, and that's the beauty of having a podcast like this, because there is such nostalgia for so many of these bands and releases that are all hitting that 20th, 25th anniversary milestone. And I suppose even for the listeners of these albums, it doesn't feel like that long ago either. Time's funny like that, right? Music just takes you back to those places. Really love to talk about the evolution of your songwriting and sound. For example, 2000s The Height of Callousness was obviously a huge evolution and turning point for the band, taking the songwriting and Spineshank's exposure to the next level. Jonny, you were quoted,
Strictly Diesel had been compromised by the opinions of outsiders and by Spineshank's own lack of a clear identity.
So in hearing this, it seems obvious you guys didn't want to set any limits for yourselves and make past mistakes with regards to future releases. What would you say were the lessons learned from the height of callousness that you then brought with you when it came to writing your third album, Self-Destructive Pattern?
Lessons learned?
Yeah.
I think if anything, we've learned a lot of what not to do as opposed to what we should do. You talk about the evolution of the band from Strictly Diesel to the height of callousness, then to Self-Destructive Pattern, then even on to Anger, Denial, Acceptance. Not a single one of those records sounds the same.
Strictly Diesel. The height of callousness. Self-destructive pattern.
Very few bands, and I'm sure Tom will agree with me on this, can do the same record over and over and over again and be successful. AC/DC did it, I would say, for a long time there. Slayer even did it. But we had to push ourselves. I will credit Tom to a lot of this, because if there was a producer in the band, it was Tommy who would push us. Like, no, we can't put the same shit out twice. And not only that, everybody was waiting for us to fail. Everybody was waiting to call us a flash in the pan. So we knew that the odds were stacked against us. We had to push it and keep pushing it and keep pushing it.
What a lot of people don't realize is that Spineshank, we were kind of born under the public's eye, because we started the band and we wrote a few songs. We had a 4-track tape and we kind of changed the way we approached music. And within 6 months of releasing our first 3 songs, we were signed to Roadrunner.
Yeah, wow.
Because only one thing counts in this life. Get them to sign on the line which is dotted.
We went into our first studio to do Diesel, and that was our first time making a real record. Everything was new to us. So we just kind of listened, and when Height of Callousness, when we went to do that, we realized we want more out of it, and we kind of found our footing and who we were as a band. Everyone became a little bit more proficient at their instruments. Same thing with Self-Destructive. It's just, hey, let's add more elements to this. Let's add different time signatures, different vocal patterns, different vocal parts, just different elements, and add more to the band. And that's something we've always tried to do. You got to keep pushing yourself and changing. Otherwise, for us, it gets boring to play the same songs every single night.
I think perhaps a lot of people weren't aware that Spineshank were kind of thrown into the deep end, being signed so early on.
Fucking fast. We were not ready to be signed yet. It happened so fast. That's why I think there was such a huge leap between Strictly Diesel and Height of Callousness. When we were done doing Strictly Diesel, we had already started writing songs that would be on Height of Callousness. Like Tom said, that was our footing. Within a fucking year and a half, we were local, signed, and a record out. There wasn't a whole lot of artist development at that time going on with us, because we were so big locally in Hollywood. It just happened. It happened fast. And, you know, hindsight's 2020. You almost wish you could go back and take the time. But I also think that that was a necessary evil for us to become the band that would go on to do, you know, Height of Callousness and Self-Destructive Pattern.
Well, also, it was like a double-edged sword, because we were very lucky that we were on Roadrunner, and there were so many great bands on Roadrunner, and they put us out on tour with Fear Factory, Sepultura, Biohazard, System of a Down, all these amazing bands, and it was like, whoa, it was a wake-up call as how much you could really do and how good you have to be to like actually make it. Getting signed, people think is like, hey, that's it. it's over. But, it's been said before that that's the hardest part. Once you get signed, then you're in the big leagues, and now you better produce. It was a real eye-opener.
Getting the record deal is actually the easy part. Keeping it's the hard part.
You're really enjoying yourself, aren't you, Chip?
If it's stuff for us, it's stuff for them.
I'm out of breath. This time I'm suffocating. I've had enough now. To numb, there's no resisting. Becoming one with all your failure. No coming back now. This bridge has been burned.
Between 2000 and 2002, there were some amazing tours with the likes of Head PE, Orgy, Mudvayne, Disturbed, and even leaving the USA to Europe with Fear Factory, and your UK headliner run in late 01 with Dry Kill Logic. Must have been a whirlwind of some pretty amazing moments and achievements shared on the road with each other and your peers.
Tom, we gotta be very careful about what we say here.
What was so great was going to Europe for the first time, Europe and the UK. It was such a culture shock, and we had no idea that anyone knew who the hell we were over there. Yeah. And when they did, it was like, how is this even possible, We
were like the fucking Beatles.
Except with no talent and no success, but,
Totally.
it was really crazy, and Fear Factory took us over there for our first tour, and it was amazing. It was a real eye-opener, and it really showed us that our music has a bigger impact than just what we thought, like just us, like here's our little demo, here's our new song, here's what we like. It actually went out to the rest of the world, and people liked it, and it affected them, and that was like really mind-blowing.
It was crazy because we worked so hard. I remember we didn't come home for 18 months. I believe it was 2002 or 3. We actually pole started the hardest working band in America. We did something like 343 shows in 365 days. We lived on tour. We did not fucking come home. It got to the point where I remember, like, for me and Tom, like, we didn't even want to come home. The road was home for us. We'd come home from tour, and it would be like, after a week of being home, we'd be like, let's get the fuck out of here. We were so conditioned. I think for Spineshank, one of the things that was our strong suit was we put out these records, but we were not a studio band. We were a live band, and we were able to really touch people that way. We would push ourselves. We worked fucking hard on the road. And we put on a really energetic show, and that's when I think we would shine. We just kept getting these great tour offers, one after the other. We opened up for Metallica twice in Europe. We opened up for Slayer and Sick of It All and Hatebreed. We did Slipknot tour, we did Ozfest, we did Orgy, we did Disturbed, I don't know how many fucking times. Fear Factory, Sepultura, System of a Down. I mean, the who's who and the Zoo back then. It's like you can't stop that momentum. Once those tours started coming in, we just rode the wave.
Yeah, you can't turn those people down. You get that opportunity, you have to take it.
With you saying the road was home, it just sounds like it must have been such an amazing time.
Oh, best time of my life. It was amazing.
Let me tell you,
it was incredible.
I remember our first tour bus was called the Rodeo Rose. I'm just gonna say, if the walls of that tour bus could fucking talk. And if you think about it, some bands aren't good at touring. You know, they're not good at staying out because of personal lives. Comes a certain amount of sacrifice that comes with being a band like that. And we were a blue-collar working band. We had to work. We had to stay out there touring because that's the only way we were going to sell records and be anything. We just got really good at it. We made the sacrifices. I don't regret a single minute of it, and I highly doubt Tom does either.
No, it was great. And let me just tell you this, to put it all into perspective. We played on the same stage as Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same day, but it was a day later, but still, I counted. We played on the same stage as Iron Maiden, and to me, that was like the pinnacle of our success, and I could say we made it, and I will use that till my dying breath.
I was 100,000 fucking people that day. I threw up like 3 times before we walked out on stage, man. I mean, it was just, that by far is the most people I've ever played to in my life, and I know I can say the same for this guy right here. It was ridiculous.
I don't remember, but it was a lot.
And we fucking handled it.
Yeah, it's just one of those moments where you say, okay, if I die right now, I die a happy man.
Yeah.
So many things that you never think you're going to do. And, you know, I had never really been out of California, maybe, you know, a couple states over, but I had never been out of the country. And all this traveling we got to do and all these people we got to meet. I saw Ozzy walking around Ozfest holding a bat. I mean, that happened just because we were playing music together when we were kids, and we got to experience all these things. It really was, man. It was incredible.
Ozfest is fun. It's a moving circus.
Yeah, I've heard it described that way, and it feels like it was that time and place, yeah, the late 90s, early 2000s, where it was just the magic of being in a band, at least from a fan's perspective anyway, looking on the outside in.
It was a good time to be in Spineshank. I know that much.
Yeah, nice.
We were doing so well, and we were being perceived so well. It wasn't just happening for us, we were working for it. I think it was a good time to be in any of the bands of that era at that time because there was so much camaraderie. Nobody wanted to go home. It was a big family. It was rad, you know, and it was a great time. I think that was the best era of my life. I think Tom feels the same way. It was the best time of my life, and I'm so glad that we got to experience that, and the music that we made afforded us the privilege to experience all that.
It's time to make the cut and let you bleed for yourself on your own. Of all the things I need, it's just for you to stop from judging me. Don't get the fuck away from me.
I mean, it was really great because you'd have shows that would be like Snot, System of a Down, Static X, Spineshank, and
S-Fest, the S-Fest.
Yeah, all these
S-Fest.
other bands. And there'd be shows where there'd be, you know, maybe a handful of people there. And then 2 years later, we're all playing this festival, and there's 100,000 people, 10,000 people, whatever it is, that are there. And it's like, hey, you're just the guy that I've known, and we used to share a dressing room, and we used to like have to pitch in to buy a 6-pack.
Dude, Tommy, I don't know if you remember this. I remember we did an S-Fest show out in the Valley once, and it was in exact lineup. It was Snot, System of a Down, Spineshank, and Static, before they were Static X, when they were still just Static. And I remember it was like 18 paid people, and I think half of them were people's girlfriends. It was like only like 18 people at this fucking show. It was so small. And then I was thinking to myself, 10 years later, I was like, imagine what that show would do now. Snot, System of a Down, Spineshank, Static X. That would be huge. I mean, thousands of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah, Tom's right. Do you remember when we did that first Fear Factory tour? It was Fear Factory, System, us, Static. I remember we were in Paris, we were sitting outside, we were just hanging out, and we were like, whoa, this is crazy. Because outside of Fear Factory, Spineshanks, System of a Down, and Static, we were all local bands together. We were all unsigned bands together in Hollywood. A couple years ago, we were all trying to sell tickets to a show at the Whiskey, and now we're over here playing in front of thousands of people in Europe on tour with Fear Factory. It was crazy, man.
Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Obviously, people like myself that didn't grow up in LA, let alone the US and that scene, it just didn't really register because internationally, we all know you guys as these bands that are signed, doing these tours, selling these records, music videos on TV, and it's hard to imagine that in many ways, just like any other band starting, you all also had to play those shows to a handful of people or your girlfriends. It's crazy. It's so surreal to imagine.
Blown away, you know? There's so many bands, and like Jonny said, there was so much camaraderie around the time that we were all kind of like pushing each other. There wasn't any kind of hatred like, you know, hey, you know, System just got signed. It was like, hey, great.
It's good for all of us.
Yeah, it was a great time to be in a band.
Yeah, no, Tommy's right. Because I've noticed that there's not a lot of that same camaraderie with some bands these days. Tommy's totally right. There was no hatred at all. The way we saw it, if one of our bands did good, we congratulate them. It was good for all of us, the way that we saw it. It was like, fuck yeah, because we were friends. We were never in competition with each other. We never fought over who should be headlining. That wasn't even in the cards. I don't know if you remember, Tom, but us and System and Static X, we all got signed within a 3-month period.
Yeah, it was very quick. I know that.
Yeah, it was like a sweep.
If you have a milkshake, and I have a milkshake, and I have a straw, there it is. That's a straw, you see. I drink your milkshake.
I believe System got signed first, then we got signed like a month later, and then Static was actually the last guys to get signed out of the three of us. But yeah, man, that shit happened for real. I remember these shows being at the Troubadour, and you know, we would do 3 nights in a row, Whiskey, Roxy, Troubadour, or we'd go up to Santa Barbara and play with Snot. They'd come down to LA and play with us. And then all of a sudden, all these fans just got signed and exploded. It's crazy.
After touring so extensively on the back of the Height of Callousness, what did you learn from your peers and what did you notice when it came to playing your songs live and how the music was even being received by the fans? How did all of that impact the writing of Self-Destructive Pattern?
I don't know. I guess it just try to take things to more extremes. You got to be heavier. You got to be faster. You want your sing-along parts to be that much more catchy. You start learning about crowd participation. Takes a role in what you're writing because beforehand it was like, hey, there's no people in front of us. It's just for the 4 of us. So all those things. And then you also learn how to put a set list together because certain songs you can't put back to back because someone might die. You know, can't breathe or it hurts. So. Just things like that. And then we learned a lot from other bands. Fear Factory taught us a lot on how to put on a good show and just watching them. And Sepultura, our idols, they taught us so much. I mean, we shared a bus with Biohazard, for God's sake. I mean, people were scared to just be around those guys. And we were just like, they're like, are you sure you guys want to do this? And we're like, yeah, we love Biohazard. So yeah, we want to do it. And it was great. And we learned a lot from them.
That was fucking nuts. I remember that. We actually had live boxing matches on that tour bus. Billy from Biohazard.
Yeah, Billy, you son of a bitch.
Billy was a fucking instigator, And he would always try and pit me and Tommy against each other. So they got these fucking boxing gloves. And plus, we're going down the fucking highway. It's like 80 miles an hour at fucking 2 o'clock in the morning. And me and Tommy are both, You know, we've partaken in some adult beverages to an extent that we're ready to put some boxing gloves on. And it was fucking crazy, man.
In other words, two fucking idiots punching each other's faces out on the freeway. It was fun.
You had to fucking be there. It was great. God damn you, Billy.
Damn you, Billy.
At that point, we were such a fucking machine. I think the touring that we had done prior to Self-Destructive Pattern had really conditioned us as a band. Tommy, I'll give him this. He was very adamant about pushing us as far as our energy live, because the thing about it is your live show is what's going to, in my opinion, in the metal world, what's going to make you or break you, because basically the things that Tom would do, he'd be like, okay, you see what the fuck Slipknot is doing? Do you see what the fuck Sick of It All is doing? You see what the fuck Snot's doing? These bands, their energy's so high, it's infectious. It took me a little while, but I really learned how to work a crowd. My whole thing about it was that there's not hair and blood and teeth on the floor at the end of our show. We didn't do our job. It's really hard to do that when you're just four guys. We didn't have any gimmicks. We didn't wear makeup, paint our faces, or wear masks. I'm not talking shit by any means. I'm just saying, like, we literally had to just go out there and be a really good, high-energy live band, pushing ourselves to the point where we were hurting ourselves. We were breaking bones. A lot of times there'd be blood on our fucking stage. It's really hard to do when you're trying to make your name. You know, you got to leave that impression. We wanted to be like Chuck Berry following great Jerry Lee Lewis when he'd light his piano on fire. Like, we wanted to be the opening band that just walked off stage and was like, follow that. I think for the most part, we did it. By the time we got to Self-Destructive Pattern, we pretty much solidified ourselves as a good headliner. When we took that energy and now we had a budget to have lights and stage production and big backdrops and scrims and all that shit, it just took it to a whole nother level. For what we lacked in talent, we made up for it as a live band, I believe.
Given these experiences shared on the road and the growth and lessons learnt as a result of recording your first two albums, would you say there was an authentic progression of style and songwriting coming into Self-Destructive Pattern? Or was there ever pressure from outside influences such as your label, Roadrunner Records?
There was a whole element of the four of us against the world, especially by that point, because we were right on the cusp of, like, you never know, it could have just broke big, the next song, the next single. And so we had high hopes and we felt like we had finally found our footing as a band. All right, we're on to something. And the label, you know, we had had some success with like New Disease and Synthetic and a couple like radio friendly things. So the label really wanted to push towards that. And as a band, we were kind of going the other way. We're like, well, we kind of want to go a little heavier. We've always been more of a metal band. But when the label wants you to, you know, write singles and they start writing checks and like, hey, guess what? You get to work with a better studio and with a big producer. It makes a difference. So we figured, let's try to give the label a couple of songs that they could take to radio. And then we'll write all the heavy songs we can. Trying to take everything else to the next extreme. Go a little bit heavier, a little bit faster. Johnny was singing better. He was singing heavier. We started bringing in different time signatures and different tunings, things like that. So it's just kind of broadening our horizons. I think that's all you can do as a band is just try to improve on what you have.
And we also had the time and the budget to broaden these horizons. You know what I'm saying? We had a bigger budget for pre-production. At that point, after Height of Callousness, we kind of solidified ourselves as, all right, these guys, they're worth spending money on. So they spent money on us. Tom and I were talking about this the other day. That record was recorded and mixed in 6 different studios over 6 months in 2 different countries. This should give you a pretty good idea of how much the label actually believed in us, I guess. At the time, that record, by the time it was finished, was the most expensive record in the history of Roadrunner to be made at that point. That record came in at $489,000. Pretty much $500,000 is what was spent on making Self-Destructive Pattern. Hindsight's 2020. Look back then, I don't think we realized what was really going on. Like Tommy said, we just wanted to broaden our horizons and we wanted the right tools to do it.
There's just something I came across on Wikipedia that I wanted to ask and confirm with you, because I did read that Spineshank originally signed a 7-album deal with Roadrunner. Is that true?
Yes. We signed 1 album with 6 options.
Right, and for anyone that doesn't know what that is, what does 6 options mean?
It means basically, so we signed our deal with Roadrunner, and to my knowledge, every band that they've ever signed has had the same deal. Everybody from like Sepultura to Slipknot, everyone.
At least up to that point.
Yeah. So basically what it was is like we signed for that first album. Now, depending on the performance of that album, they have the option, what they call picking up the option, to put our next record out. We don't have the option to go to another label unless they don't pick up the option. And that works from record to record to record. So basically, they have you for your bulk of your career, because let's face it, the average band has, a 4 or 5 record run? So Roadrunner was very smart in signing their bands that way, because say the success of Height of Callousness, we were like, fuck this, we're getting offers from Jack Off Records or whoever else that is much more in our favor, say financially, we can't go there because Roadrunner has that option. Until they would say, let us go, or say, we're not going to pick up the option, we're stuck. And that could have been up to 7 albums.
Put it this way, Slipknot just finished their 7th album.
Yeah, they just finished their 7th album for Roadrunner.
So they can do whatever the hell they want now and make all the money themselves. It's definitely better for the label to keep you on lockdown. You never know when you're going to get the next Slipknot or the next Nickelback.
Yeah.
Because those guys made a lot of money.
That would have made it quite an interesting dynamic and relationship with the label over the years and the 3 albums you released while signed to them.
Well, you're kind of at their mercy, but I got to admit, they were pretty good to us. Monty Connor, who's a legend, he signed fucking Typo Negative, Sepultura, Fear Factory, Machine Head, Biohazard.
Yeah.
I mean, the who's who.
Yeah, he essentially signed a bunch of our favorite bands, right?
Yeah, the who's who. Put it this way, we wanted to be on Roadrunner simply for the fact that we could share that logo with those other bands.
Yeah, all the bands that we loved were on Roadrunner. Every band that we loved.
Well, it's the same for a fan too. I mean, if you were in the CD store and you looked at the spine of any album and saw the Roadrunner logo without even knowing the band, you'd just be like,
I'm going to buy it.
Yep, I'm going to buy this. 90s Roadrunner was god tier in terms of their band, roster, and iconic releases.
Roadrunner was definitely like brand recognition at that point, you know?
That's why people hate Nickelback so much. Not because they're such a terrible band, but because they got duped. Because everyone's like, oh, it's Roadrunner, it's going to sound like Sepultura, it's going to sound like Slipknot. And then nope.
So true.
It's funny how everybody hates Nickelback, but I'm going to tell you what, there's 20 million records sold that says otherwise.
Right.
I mean, Nickelback pretty much financed Roadrunner for a while there.
You know what real love is, Crystal?
No.
Sacrifice.
You know, Monty was awesome. He's crazy. Like, I don't know if Tommy remembers this, but we were doing Strictly Diesel. Like, he actually wanted to hear like how a vocal came out on this song. He made me sing this, like sing over the phone. I think it was like fucking Star 28 or something. He's like, can you just sing it over the phone for me? I was like, what? No. And like, I'm in the room with everybody else, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. I finally had to do it. I look like a jackass over here, singing heavily off key over the phone to the VP of fucking Roadrunner.
You should have said like, hey, let me get Garth on the other line. Then we'll do this. We'll get this going. Get some auto tune up here.
Your call's important to us. If it's so fucking important, you answer the fucking phone.
But yeah, you know, because we got offers from other labels, but Roadrunner, I still believe, was our best option at that point because we wanted to be with a label that knew how to market us.
There'll never in the history be another label like Roadrunner. And
yeah,
Roadrunner UK, amazing. They were the best part of that label. When we got there, it was just, holy crap, we're treated like stars.
Awesome. Red carpet. Yeah, Roadrunner UK was amazing. And we had a lot of love there too because the band did exceptionally well in the UK.
Yeah, they all worked it. They lived it and breathed it just like the bands did. You knew you were taken care of over there. Just in the little details. They made sure your hotel was nice. And have you eaten today? Do you need to eat? Every detail was taken care of, and they were amazing. Some of my best memories of being in this stupid band of ours was being in the UK and meeting those people.
Tommy Decker, you're a nasty, nasty, horrible man.
Yes, I am.
I'll leave that story alone.
Feels like quite a few stories need to be left under lock and key with the two of you.
Oh, yeah.
I am not the one that you believe in. I will not become what you conceive. And you're the one who dug yourself a hole. And I'm not there to hear you cry for help. I will not be there till you call for me. I will not be there till I am mine.
There was a lot of other things going on back then. I got kidnapped.
What?
Yeah, he did.
At that point, in our minds, coming from where we came from, we were pretty much full-blown rock stars at that point. So I personally was acting like one.
But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying.
Well, then in comes Garth Richardson.
Yeah, fucking Garth, man.
Which is the perfect segue to where I would love to go next.
Yeah. Garth was fucking straight up. First, they made me stay at this like extended living hotel with two guys. Who's it, Tommy? It was Ben and who's it? Who
Ben
else
and
was
Dean.
it? Ben and Dean. And so they were pretty much my babysitters. Like I wasn't allowed to go out, go to the Rainbow, go party.
The following is an excerpt from episode 10's bonus content over at the Life Is Peachy Patreon. Chimera's Rob Arnold recalls hanging out at the famous Rainbow Bar.
The Rainbow Bar and Grill, which is a famous lounge on Sunset Boulevard where all the rock stars always hang out. You know, Lemmy'd be up there all the time, the Guns N' Roses guys, way before my time, obviously, the Motley Crue, everything like that. So Mark and Jim just went out there, just, network. And they met with Scott and they went up to the Rainbow and they ended up sitting and chilling with Stephen Carpenter from the Deftones. We're all huge Deftones fans, obviously. B. Rio from Cypress Hill, Dino from Fear Factory. So it was just totally an awesome experience for Mark and Jim way early on before we had even done Pass Out or really done any touring and stuff like that to be hanging with some of our idols there.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
A couple nights I escaped. And so then that wasn't enough. So they said, oh, we're going to go finish this in Canada. So I thought we were going to Vancouver. Ended up, we were going to Garth's home recording studio on Gibson Island. And it's like an island. I couldn't get away. There was nowhere to go.
Yeah. We eventually had to put a hood over his head, take him across country, put him on a boat, put him on an island where he couldn't have access to the outside world to get him to do. And then Garth was really, really hard on him. But, I mean, he got results,
He did. And that's a thing, there's a fine line.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's the wrong tone. You do it again, I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
There's a reason why we used him again. And Garth and I had a very rocky relationship with Self-Destructive Pattern. There was a lot of reverse psychology going on, and it was good for the anger, but it took its fucking toll on me. That's for damn sure. Do I regret it? No. Did it drive me insane and make me question my sanity at points?
That's what it took? That's what it took.
Yeah, it was really rough on me because I knew the importance of my vocals and I was singing better. They actually sent me to a vocal coach named Mark Rank for a while. That helped me a lot. But when I thought something was good, guys like Garth and Tommy, they knew better. I might have been able to fool some people, but they were able to pull something out of me, something really ugly that was inside of me. They didn't care how it especially Garth, he didn't care. He got results, just like Tommy said, he got results. Did I want to kill some people? Sometimes even myself? Yeah. But in the end, it worked.
During episode 14 of the Life Is Peachy podcast, Max Illich from 40 Below Summer talked about his personal experiences as a singer, working with Garth Richardson for their album Invitation to the Dance, and he specifically mentioned hearing about Garth really pushing you, Jonny, while recording both the Height of Callousness and Self-Destructive Pattern.
The following is an excerpt from episode 14 of the Life Is Peachy podcast with 40 Below Summer's Max Illich.
And he did the same thing, for example, to Jonny Santos from SPINESHANK, because he did their record about a year before he did ours, and then I think he did the record after ours as well. And I know that both times he really, really, really fucked with Jonny a lot, to the point where Jonny was like freaking out, threatening him and stuff like, you know. Step into the sideshow.
I mean, in all fair, Jonny was out of control, but I mean, we all were at some point. But in all fairness, in his defense, I mean, we were trying to make Jonny be Trent Reznor, Lane Staley, Phil Anselmo, Mike Patton. Like, hey, I want you to be all these guys at once.
Yeah, fucking high expectations.
Yeah, and I get it, but like, you know, we had like, hey, to do a thing like Mike Patton would do here, and it's like, it's not so easy, buddy. We get it, but we really did have high expectations, and I think he did a pretty good job of melding all those guys together, and it became his sound.
I mean, you say high expectations, but you guys must have believed in Jonny and that he was capable of those high expectations.
Nah, he's just all we had.
I agree.
No, of course. I mean,
I agree.
When we started, we were just a straight metal band with just growly vocals and like no singing at all, no choruses.
Yeah.
When we found out he could sing, it like opened up a whole new world for us that was like, holy shit, we can do these things. We can write these catchy songs. Because to us, being one-dimensional was never a thing. Like, yeah, you could be the heaviest band in the world, and I love that shit. I love death metal and some of this heavy stuff that's coming out now. It just, these kids are so fast and so brutal that it's insane. But to us, it was like, well, there's got to be dynamics. There's got to be levels. There's got to be hooks. I mean, my favorite band of all time is the Beatles. They did Helter Skelter, and they did Here Comes the Sun. There's always got to be some variety there. And it can't just be bash you over the head all the time.
Happiness is a warm gun, baby. I think what Tom's trying to say here, too, is like there's so many bands out there that I feel like you hear the first two songs on a record, and you just heard the whole fucking record. There are people out there, oh, they sold out, they're singing this and that. We were singing from the first Spineshank record. The second we found out that I could sing, or thought I could sing, we just took off with it. Because the early days of Spineshank, we were still Basic Enigma. If you heard some of the demos, it was all like Sepultura, Pantera, Biohazard sounding. I mean, originally wasn't even a singer. I was a guitar player. I became a singer on accident. When we found out that I could do some catchy singing stuff, it just opens a whole new door. So when bands say, oh, they suck, they sing, you know what, fuck you. That's awesome. That creates the roller coaster effect. It opens so many doors for like dynamics, and screaming through a whole song, it just doesn't work for me. Outside of Spineshank, even with Silent Civilian, when I did that, same thing. I didn't jump on the whole screaming through a whole song thing. And so we found out that I could sing. Tom and Garth and these guys, like, they just push that to a whole new level because it creates a mood when you sing something. It's just another tool. For me as a singer, I have like 4 different voices that I can do as a singer. I'm not a one-trick pony. And I don't like that when bands do that, when they're just a one-trick pony and it's just like, okay. I hate when I hear a song and thinking to myself, fuck, that would be such a rad part to do like a 3-part harmony vocal on. I feel like when you do that kind of shit, you waste it. I feel like that verse or that chorus in the song isn't reaching its full potential. So that's something that we did, and you can sing and be very aggressive about it. There's a certain voice that I have that you'll hear a lot on Height of Callousness and Self-Destructive Pattern that Tommy and Garth and the rest of the guys, they were like, that's where we need to go with this. It's heavy and it's aggressive and it's emotional, but it still has melody. It's the little nuances like that that we always set out to try to do. And I think that you'll actually hear a lot of that on Self-Destructive Pattern. That's just our sound, man, I guess. And for people that tell us, oh, you singing and fucking blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's what whatever.
Spineshank truly made that melting pot the band's roundhouse in terms of your sound, and you really became masters of your craft. And even though Self-Destructive Pattern features some of the band's heaviest moments, you guys obviously were no strangers to hooks, melody, and the use of clean singing, and this was definitely explored to even greater lengths on the third album with Garth. Self-Destructive Pattern would, of course, see you guys reunite with who we have been talking about, producer Garth Richardson, the man responsible for Rage Against the Machine's self-titled debut, and epic releases with Kitty, 40 Below Summer, Mudvayne, Chevelle, to name a few.
Nickelback.
Nickelback. The band we don't speak of.
I love you, Garth.
We've already started to explore the conversation of Spineshank's sound, influences, and working with Garth. It's almost as if this has become some sort of urban legend or something, so I'm honestly very curious how you feel when reflecting on those experiences working with him and, yeah, what you have to show for it. What led to the decision to once again helm him as producer and put yourselves through that once again following the height of callousness? Was it because you had now established that relationship of trust and results?
Well, yeah, it was much as the same as like the four of us, me, Rob, Mike, and Johnny, all went through this war together. We did the same thing with Garth, and he didn't have to, you know, we did because we were stuck together. But Garth, like you said, before us, he was on a roll. He did Kitty, Mudvayne, tons of bands, and he was already established. He took a chance on a young band like us. It meant a lot to us, you know, because for us, he legitimized us a little bit because, hey, we got this guy who's done all these great records and he's willing to work with us. Maybe there's something there because we never really thought, especially before we did Callousness, we basically had all our stuff stolen, and Roadrunner was like, well, guess what, guys? Garth is interested in you. If you guys can get into Canada, because we'd never been able to get into Canada for various reasons. Because if you guys can get into Canada, you're going to make a second record. And if not, then you don't have a record deal anymore. So the fact that Garth stood up for us and stuck by us, and the fact that Johnny was even willing to go back to Garth a second time when he realized, because while Garth was pushing him and hard on him, that it was all for the right reasons. Garth wasn't doing it to be a dick. Garth was doing it to get the best out of him, to get the best out of us. And that's what he did.
For anyone interested, I've had Garth on track 3 of the second podcast channel, the Mixtape Sessions, and I'll link that in the details of this interview so Lips can check it out. We look over some of his back catalogue work, including Self-Destructive Pattern, and he specifically referenced Smothered as a prime example where he was kicking your ass, Johnny. He described it as beating the shit out of you mentally to get that performance.
Well, let's not get carried away here. No, I know what he's saying.
I'll stress that he said kicking the shit out of you mentally.
Oh, yeah, you know.
But then he was like, hey, look, that song was nominated for a Grammys, so...
It did. You know, that's what had to happen. It was serious for a while. Like, I sacrificed a lot of my security, my mental security, emotional security got ripped to shreds. I had to go to a dark place a few times, and Garth knew that's what it was going to take to get results.
The following is an excerpt from track 3 of the Mixtape Sessions with Garth Richardson.
That was a difficult record to make. A singer, Jonny Santos, wonderful human being, but I had to kick his ass. And the great thing is, when they got nominated for the best rock song for the Grammys, was the song that they got nominated for. That was the one that I beat the shit out of them. not actually physically, but mentally, to where I said things to him and he was like, fuck you. I was like, fuck you, asshole. No, fuck you. No, fuck you. Go fucking sing, you piece of shit. And then he sang the vocal and it was like, wow.
We knew that we had a fighter on our hands because the label at that time really was the era of Linkin Park and POD and Papa Roach and all these radio bands. And like I said earlier, we were one step away. Like all we needed was that one chorus. We'll sell 1 million. There was gold in everyone's eyes. And for us, that would have been nice, but we're still wanting to be true to who we were. And we knew that Garth would help do that. He wasn't going to force us to do anything we didn't want to do. And he's got integrity, and we love that about him. And we're still friends to this day.
We had met with a couple other producers prior to making Self-Destructive Pattern, but I think one of the reasons, and Tommy can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the reasons I think we ended up going with Garth was there's such an emphasis vocally with the band. And I don't think anybody at that time trusted any other producer to get the performance out of me that Garth was going to get. Because, like they say, vocals is 75% of a song. And even I believe that. As much as I was still a little fucking PTSD from working with Garth on Callousness, I knew that he was what was best for the band because he was hands-on vocally, and he knew it. And I know some of the other producers we met with, they just weren't saying the right things.
There was a lot of guys, like a lot of big guys, a lot of guys that probably,
Howard Benson, I know.
We could have made a great record with a bunch of these guys, but I think there was a big focus on us. And a lot of people still, to this day, think of Spineshank as a radio band and not a metal band. And to us, it's like, hey man, there's 2 or 3 songs on each record that are a little bit melodic, but the rest of it is just bash you in the face.
There's blast beats on fucking Self-Destructive Pattern, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, track 4, Consumed.
Track 2, there's blast beats on. But we knew Garth was going to let us be who we were. I mean, he was going to push us. He was going to do what he had to do. He was going to appease the label, but in the end, he was going to let us make our record. And that's what you want. You want to make your record. Success is nice, and I wish I had that $1 million house right now, but in the end, I wish I had that $1 million house. But no, it's like we made the records we wanted to make. We knew Garth would let us do that,
Hindsight being 2020, today I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm all right with that because in the end, it really doesn't matter how I felt about Garth or his tactics. In the end, it mattered what the end result was and how this record, how it's going to represent everybody involved and us as a band and growth. Growth is key. Garth is one of those guys who, it wasn't just the singing parts of it. There's a difference between me screaming in a song, doing a heavy song screaming. Then there's the version of me doing that where you actually scared because of the way my voice sounds. It sounds like there's some terror going on there. Yeah, monstro.
There's something about Garth. Me and Mike would do a lot of stuff, a lot of pushing to Johnny, writing the songs, and we're in a band together. We're in an even playing field. So it could end up in a fist fight, which it has many times. So to have Garth there, he's kind of an outside guy. It takes that familiarity away. When I would push Johnny, I might, he might throw a punch at me. You know what I mean? And he's not as likely to throw a punch at Garth, which by the end of it,
Oh, I was gonna punch
one
him
of the
one
two
day.
could have punched each other, but
I was gonna punch
you
him
know,
one
they
day.
didn't.
I was this close to punching Thad one day. I remember we were doing self-destructive pattern, and I'm like in the heat of it. I'm like, oh yeah, Ralph. Like I'm all emotional and fucking sweating. I'm in the vocal booth, and Garth, they're like, oh, hold on a second, Johnny. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, waiting. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I wait like 10 minutes. I'm like hot. I walk in.
Anybody seen Richie? Huh?
And they're watching a hockey game.
Hey man, the man loves his hockey. Man loves his hockey.
I am fucking ready to fucking go. And so that was one of the times. Oh, and there was another time when he asked about my sister.
Not in my movie.
Oh well, yeah, he's pushing buttons now.
Yeah, I was like, I think Tommy was even like, you better fucking watch out. I was gonna fucking kill him.
Garth, I went down that road. You better shut up.
So, Tommy, you have a shared producer credit on both The Height of Callousness and Self-Destructive Pattern. But what does that mean? And how did the role come about?
It was kind of like a band-produced record. It's just, I was very, very involved. That record especially because during Strictly Diesel, when everything we owned got stolen, it was truck with Fear Factory, System of a Down, and our gear in it. And it all got stolen. We didn't have insurance. All the other bands had insurance, and they were up on tour the next week. And for us, it was like, holy shit, this might be over. Our dream just started, and it might be over. It put me in a mind frame of nothing else matters. And I had nothing in the world at the time. I had my son, and that was it. But I also had to provide for him. This was the only thing I really knew how to do. So I took it very, very serious, day in, day out, 24 hours a day. I just lived and breathed Spineshank, wrote lyrics, went to practice, did demos, anything I could do for the band. My entire life was just that band. That record meant a lot to me. So every little thing, I'm sure this is what annoyed Johnny and Mike and Rob too, because every little note they played, I would have something to say about it.
Okay, well, we'll take these home, run through them with a fine-tooth comb, cross the T's and dot the lowercase J's.
But I think it was that attention to detail which kind of made the record, and the other guys too. Everyone was very involved. It's just, to me, I was at a point where I realized I have nothing if I don't have this. We got to do it. And the label, to their defense, they were giving us a little bit of money to live. And they said, go ahead and just make a record. Do what you guys are going to do. I think at that point, they had decided, well, if this record sucks, these guys aren't going to go anywhere. And if the demos are good, then we're going to have another record. And thankfully, we all know that they liked it.
Yeah, we got held hostage a lot back then, bro. We got fucking held hostage emotionally a lot back then. Like, if you guys don't fucking do this, we're dropping you. It's like,
yeah,
fuck.
But the one thing I will have to give them is that they let us go. And we had the greatest A&R guy of all time, Kevin Estrada. So,
fucking hot shot.
Money talk. Here comes the money.
Yeah, the hot shot. We had him, and he fought for us to the death. So I don't know how much trouble he ever got in for us, but I know he did.
Dude, he put his fucking job. This guy's married at the time with newborn babies and shit. He put his job on the line for us several times. He would fight so hard for us, and they'd be like, well, if they don't do this, you're going to get fired. Are you willing to take that chance? And he would be like, yes. He believed in us. He was like the coach for Team Spineshank, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I give Kevin nothing but praise and love.
On the other end of that, I learned so much from Garth because at that point, we had just had our first Pro Tools rig. And we learned so much from him about track management and how to do things. And he wasn't afraid to give that knowledge. A lot of people are like, hey, I've learned that through all these years.
Trade secrets.
Yeah, and Garth and his whole team, Ben and Dean, they taught us the whole time, and it was just great. It was fun making that record. It was painful, but it was great, man. There was excitement happening at the time, and same with Self-Destructive. There was a little more pressure because we had already had some success, but the label had heard some of the songs, beginning of the end, and Smothered, and it was like, okay, guys, you seem to be on the right track. And then we'd get that stuff done, and Garth would be like, all right, guys, you want to scream your ass off and do blast beats on this song? Go for it.
Okay, so we've mentioned the blast beats a few times. When you think of Spineshank and all the ingredients that go into the overall soundscape and appeal of the band, of course there's the vocals, but I have to say the drumming. The style and execution, it's such an integral part to the recipe of that overall sound. Coming into this record, it sounds like there was a lot of life experiences for the both of you. What were some of the other influences going into the evolution of your craft and skill set this time around?
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for telling him that. He needs to hear that shit.
No, I think a lot of it was being around these other great, amazing bands and like, wow, you know, and to at the same time see that, hey, I'm actually in the same class as this guy, right? I'm playing on the same stage with Nickel McBrain. That doesn't make me as good as Nickel McBrain, but I played on the same stages and there's something there. So it makes you want to push yourself a little bit more. And all these bands, we've mentioned how many great bands we've toured with and got to hang out with. And it just makes you want to like try to better yourself, because if these guys are pushing themselves, it makes them push you, because these are idols. And there's been a few times where I've had idols of mine, Fear Factory being one of them. Those guys all helped us out, took us on tour. They liked our music. Like, what's going on here? How do you guys like our music? I mean, you guys make this great music, Machine Head, these great bands, and it pumps you up, makes you feel good, and makes you want to push yourself to the next level, to get to their level, vice versa. So it just made us push ourselves.
Just like Tommy said, you know, we had seen some success with High to Callousness, and we're seeing the band breaking Billboard. We're seeing the band charting on the radio. It does put a certain amount of pressure on the band, and it puts a lot of pressure on the singer. It's like, I got to invent the greatest, next best melody out of thin air, out of nothing.
I reject the way you need, hurt yourself to get to me. I will break away from you. My regret is knowing you.
Coming back to Slavery, that's a great example where it sounds like razors are cutting up your voice, and I mean that as a compliment. It sounds like your throat is just bleeding the emotion. It's so good.
Yeah, probably was.
That's Garth's magic, and that's what we push him to do. I know it hurts, and he probably didn't sing the next day, but...
Remember Tommy, the Jonny Santos window of opportunity?
Oh, yeah. I know very well.
Going into making self-destructive pattern, influence-wise, I think it's the first time it actually felt like work and accountability and responsibility for who we were as a band. I was at a very transitional time in my life. I had just gone through my first divorce. Just like Tom said, I was a little out of control back then. So I kind of used this record as a platform for my emotion. I think most singers would do the same thing in the same situation. But going through a divorce and losing my family, there was a certain sense of chaos that was going on with me that was really negative energy that I had to turn into something that was going to be positive in the end. So as far as what was influencing me, beginning of the end, I'll be straight up, that song's about my marriage failing. There's that kind of shit all over self-destructive pattern. I think there were other people in the band that were making huge sacrifices, you know. Tommy's over here. Tommy's a single father. He's got his son on the road with us. He's got no help from mom. Spineshank fucking raised little Tommy Decker during those years, you know.
And you know what? You want to hear something fucked up? He turned 27 yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
birthday.
Little Tommy was 27 years old. And he's a badass guitar player, too.
I remember one time I went to my bunk when we were sharing that bus with Biohazard. I got into my bunk and I just smelled like shit.
No, you can't tell that story. 27 now. You can't tell that story.
Okay. Oh, man. Going into making self-destructive pattern, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of animosity, there was a lot of pressure. Outside of what I was dealing with in my personal life, which I will add, I blame nobody a lot of this was very self-inflicted. I'd just become a big rock star, and
Yeah, so you thought.
yeah, exactly. Whatever, I have to say. And it wasn't conducive to my marriage at the time. The pressure that was coming out for personal life, the label, and just the high expectations, because now we have a responsibility. We're no longer underdogs and the new kids fucking on the block. Now we have to pony up. Now we have to deliver. And you remember that, Tom. You remember that. There was no room for failure on our end. We had to deliver.
Plus, the elephant in the room is the band was fighting a lot at the time,
Yes.
There was a lot of resentment being on tour together, living in a bus, in a van, so close to each other, and we just kind of burned out, so.
In a van down by the river. We're living in a van down by the river.
Pretty much.
When there's so much going on around you and a lot playing out behind the scenes, as a band, as individuals, when you look back on the experience of making that album, what are, some other moments that come to mind, or, are there memories that you would even recall as positive?
Wow. That's fucked up that everything is just no.
Yeah, dude, I'm waiting for you to go first, dude.
No, just the fact that, we've been pretty lucky as a band that it always has felt like, because it always was the four of us. And there's never been a version of Spineshank without just the four of us. So the fact that we can overcome fistfights and arguments and deaths in the family and divorces and things like that, and that we were still able to find something positive by writing the song. Like Johnny brought up beginning of the end. I think that song should have been a hit. We never got to release that as a single. It was on the Freddy vs. James soundtrack, but it never really got out there. A lot of people don't know about it. It was just that, like, brothers fight, but you still love your brother. It's the same type of thing, and it's an accomplishment. I have all the albums on the wall. It's a huge accomplishment that four punks did together that nobody ever expected. When I look back on my life, as sad as that is to say, that's my what I leave.
There was something that I wanted to set straight. There's a lot of people out there. Tommy hit it on the nail, saying that there has only ever been one version of Spineshank, and that was the four of us. And on our Wikipedia page, I don't know, he keeps fucking switching it back, but there's people.
It's not him.
Well, I don't know who it is. If somebody's saying that Brandon Espinosa was a singer in Spineshank, he never was. Nothing I have against Brandon, but if we're going to keep the history and the sanctity of Spineshank, with all due respect, the way it is, I wanted to make that clear.
Start the music.
Yeah, it was crazy because within 6 years, Tommy and I went from being pretty much, like, we were homeless, fucking homeless and starving, to getting nominated for a Grammy. That's a lot. A lot of bands say they did that shit.
Yeah, totally. I, like many fans, am so thankful for Spineshank and Spineshank's music.
Wow, you're amazing, dude.
It's made such a massive difference in our lives, and it's stuff that means so much back then and obviously continues to do so now, and that's around the world, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's this whole new generation of Spineshank fans, like 18 years old, they're kids, And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? People are just hitting me up. I'm like, you were born after our third record. You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
It's awesome.
And that's the thing that's always been very crazy to me, because I've always have and I always will. I still have the mindset of a fan. To meet Pantera, when I met Tommy Lee, he was the reason I started playing drums. He was the coolest guy to me. He was the nicest fucking guy. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm not going to bug him. I'm not going to try to be his best buddy. But it was just so cool to me. And I've had other idols of mine treat me like shit. And so when I hear a kid say something like, hey, your music got me through a tough time, especially for me and Johnny, lyrically, hey, those lyrics got me through a tough time. It's like, really? Like, wow. Because it got me through a tough time. That's why I wrote those lyrics. Exactly. And so the fact that it connected is insane. And the fact that it went more than 5 miles from where I live blows me away.
That's what makes it all worth it, Tom. I still get messages today about how our songs saved people's lives. That means the world, because knowing that Tom and I wrote songs that really touched, like, affect people to the point where it saved them, like it saved lives, man, that's the best. Because, you know, Tom and I grew up like we're throwaway kids, man. Nobody gave a fuck about us. We were never supposed to fucking get where we got. And that's the thing. Tommy's right. We wrote these songs to save our lives. It was therapeutic for us. So when we did something that positively affected people's lives, I know for me, it gives me a sense of purpose. That's fucking awesome, because I personally believe that's what metal is supposed to do. I know that's what it did for me and Tommy, these bands that we grew up listening to. It helped us. So when we write these songs, it's not fake shit. And the fact that we wrote songs that really touched people and helped them through whatever dark point in their life they were going through, man, that's just fucking rad, dude. I don't know how else to put it. It beats any of the fame or any of the notoriety.
The fame or the money?
Yeah, no, I didn't say money.
Oh, yeah, the fame either, the money.
I said notoriety.
So sick of that shit.
Night up there when he's not really feeling his lyrics and really singing from his heart. It's every night.
Talking about the lyrics of songs, and earlier you both touched on the beginning of the end and the meaning of that particular track. Are there any other songs from Self-Destructive Pattern that really stand out for you guys, or hit a little harder, or just even personal favorites?
For me, I think Consumed, Obsessive Compulsive.
Yeah, Obsessive Compulsive.
To me, that was a song where I kind of think it's one of the songs that best envelops all the stuff that Spineshank had, you know? It has dynamics.
Should be the poster child.
Heavy, it has some singing. There's some different time signatures we were dealing with. There's different riffing patterns that Mike was doing in there. It's got Rob and Johnny both sounding amazing on there. And it was just a cool song that I thought, this is kind of everything we do wrapped up into one little neat package. So I like that one a lot. Slavery also, because I think it hits so hard, and I love the bridge of that. Again, with the dynamics. It goes from very quiet to very noisy, and that's kind of what we always wanted to do.
Yeah, they're two of my favorites for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Obsessive Compulsive, I've always said that if I had to pick one song out of everything we've ever done, that would be my favorite. Asking what your favorite song is in your band is like picking one kid over the other, but Obsessive Compulsive, that song, if somebody says, what does your band sound like? That's the first song I'd show, because I feel like that song has every element of what Spineshank is. It is heavy, it's angry, it's melodic, it's emotional, and it takes you on a journey. I mean, there's some cool time signatures going on. Tommy's doing everything from blast beats to drum and bass. There's screaming, there's singing, there's cool like ambient shit going on. That's a great one. Slavery, just a banger. You want to talk about one of the best live songs ever? Slavery is just fucking balls out heavy. And that's why, just like Tom said, when people think about us as a radio band, and it's just like, you haven't heard Slavery, have you? Or Dead to Me is another one of my favorites on that record.
Yeah, man, the end of that song, what a way to close the album.
For live purposes, oh my God. That song just live, it's a closer. It's insane. By the end of the song, whatever tour, you hear thousands of people just chanting, "You're fucking dead to me." With that song, we basically did the Wall of Death without asking them to do the Wall of Death. It just fucking happened, every fucking night.
You're a happy man.
Well, the memories are starting to come back. Because the bad ones don't come back.
These records, you make these records and you only get the opportunity, you get this point in time where you have the record label and you have this fan base that still cares, the producer, and you have all these things aligned. So when it's your time to perform, you have to put everything you have into it. I think we all did, all four of us. Just, this is it, guys. That's the one thing about this band, is that we never took it for granted. We always knew, like, hey, this could go away tomorrow.
This could be the end of it tomorrow.
If we're in that fucking studio and we're in the same studio where the Beatles recorded or Fleetwood Mac recorded or whoever recorded there, we get the honor to be in that same place. You better put your heart and soul into it, or otherwise you're a fucking jackass.
Yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that makes it stand the test of time, right? That's why we're here talking about your music 20 plus years later.
Yeah, and it's really insane when Johnny told me you wanted to do this. It's like, first of all, I was like, has it really been 20 years already?
I know, right? Madness.
And that it's cool because I think this album doesn't get the recognition it deserves because we didn't really tour on it that much. We only did a few tours and then things kind of fell apart. So I think the record could have been a lot bigger because I think there's some hidden gems on there, but I'm very proud of it. And it really means a lot that it affected you enough to like want to sit here and talk to two jackasses for this long,
See? Fucking dummy.
We've glossed over the fact that the album's lead single, Smothered, was nominated in 2004 for a Grammy in the category of Best Metal Performance, and Spineshank was surrounded by good company within fellow nominees Metallica, Korn, Marilyn Manson, and Stone Sour. Can you break down this moment in the band's career? Was there actually chance for this to properly sink in, given everything going on?
Well, I don't know. What I'll tell you how I found out. At that time, prior to me finding out, I was hanging out partying with some friends till like 6 in the morning. At like 9 in the morning. And I'm sleeping and my cell phone starts ringing and I'm like, oh, fuck, man. I wake up and I was like, hello? And he's like, yo, dude, wake up, Johnny. You guys just got nominated for a Grammy. I go, dude, I just went to sleep. It's too early for you bullshit. And I fucking hung up on him because I was...
Well, I know Mike had the same story.
No
My publicist called him, and she's like, yeah, you got nominated for Grammy. He's like, yeah, right, bitch. Hung up on her.
Fucking Kevin wakes me up again. He calls me back, and I'm like, dude, I just went to sleep. And he's like, I am not fucking around, Johnny. Go on the Grammy website right now. Get up, go to your computer, get on the Grammy website, and go check it out. I go, dude, if you're lying to me, I swear to God, I will make it my life's mission to fucking get revenge.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
I got up and I got on the website and sure as fucking shit, it was there. That's how I found out. And I was just like, okay, who did we piss off bad enough to play this kind of a practical joke on us? Because there's no way.
I think that band Metallica kind of needed it more than we did.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard of them thanks to a show called Stranger Things.
Yeah.
They needed another one. Obviously, they needed some more paperweights.
To be honest, I haven't heard from them since. Well, I'll tell you my dad's response. I go, hey, Dad, so I got nominated for a Grammy. He goes, oh, yeah? How much does that pay? I go, it doesn't pay anything.
Yeah, that sounds like Ray Decker.
It doesn't pay anything. And he's like, well, there you go.
This is the same man that told me I was going to jail because I had neck tattoos.
He wasn't wrong.
What are you going to look at those tattoos on your neck? You're going to go to jail.
My dad was kind of right.
You got a tattoo. So what did you be doing? No.
Dude, there was something weird on the MTV ticker because we started getting these text messages and phone calls saying, congratulations. They put on the MTV ticker that Spineshank had won. Do you remember that?
No, that must have been like Pauly Shore or fucking someone.
Okay, my friend. Try and experience what I'm about to chirp in your lobes, okay, cool? Today, buddy, we're going to discuss grindage.
I'm getting text messages going, congratulations. Somebody had fucked up the ticker on the MTV News or whatever, and it said that we had won, and I was like, this is even worse. Like throwing salt in the wound.
We were already broken up as a band, too, so we never even got to, like, enjoy any of the accolades.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing. People will say what they want about this band or that record or even that single. But I will say this. It didn't mean as much to me then as it does now. And I think for anything, it's more to remind myself of what we did. The Grammy is the highest accolade that a musician or songwriter can achieve. Nomination, to me, in a lot of ways, that's almost as good as the Grammy itself, because from now on, Spineshank will always be known as Grammy-nominated band Spineshank. Tommy will always be Grammy-nominated artist Tommy Decker, you know, and so on and so forth.
That's awesome.
That's just one of those things. Yeah, we didn't make any money or anything like that, but that's kind of cool. That's like, okay, you guys did something. And sometimes when you look back on your career, it's nice to have that there, because there's a lot of bands that have never even achieved that nomination. They were much more successful than we were. So, you know what? I used to act like I didn't care, but you know what? Now I'll fucking take it. And it's nice for like my mom, for my fucking kids.
Guess what, buddy? You can't have it because Metallica's got it.
Well, I guess there's worse bands to lose to.
Yeah, well, depends on who you talk to.
The cat is
oh, God
out of the
damn
bag,
it, Tommy!
folks.
I want to tell a story, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, don't. No, but it was great. It was surprising and it was great.
So with 2 albums hitting the US Billboard 200, multiple singles receiving radio play, a dedicated fan base, international touring, and a Grammy nomination, over all the years, the ups and downs, and the eventual breakdown of the band. With regards to the two of you, how would you both describe your chemistry and bond over the years throughout all of that?
I mean, same thing. You get the ups and downs. We met when we were respectively 12 and 14 years old.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Johnny put out an ad in a local newspaper that said drummer wanted between 12 and 15 years old, must like Ozzy, Dio, and Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was obsessed with all 3 of those bands, especially Guns N' Roses. So I called him and we got together and we played bad punk rock because we couldn't play the metal because we sucked so much.
I played Crazy Train over the phone for him, and he was sold. I have my little Sears catalog electric guitar and a little 15-watt Gorilla amp. Played drums for me and I played guitar for him over the phone, and that was crazy because that ad came out in the Recycler Classifieds, which is like a newspaper type of deal that you could buy. They had a musician section, and I remember putting that ad out. It was 1987. I was 11. Tommy was 13. I put the ad out. Drummer wanted ages 12 to 14, and I remember the phone calls I got. It was just a bunch of old creepy perverts. They were like 40, wanting to be in a band with a fucking 11-year-old, 12-year-old, you know? And Tommy was the last person to call. I remember my mom was like, you got another guy calling on the phone to ask about the drummer position. And I get on the fucking phone with Tommy, and I'm just thinking it's going to be another 40-year-old creep trying to be in a band with little kids.
And you weren't wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? I remember my stepdad at the time, he took me over to Tommy's house to pick him up. And I remember seeing Tommy, this little white dude with long blonde hair. I was like, I thought this dude sounded like he was Mexican with a speech impediment, you know? And his whole drum set fit into his kick drum. Like his entire drum set fit into his kick drum. And we picked him up and we went back to my mom's house, set up in the garage, and that's where history started. And so when you ask about the chemistry, I've been writing with this guy for over 30 years of my life. There's a chemistry there that you just can't make up. I mean, this takes time, and he's my oldest friend. Tommy's my oldest friend.
Is that a shot at how old I am?
I didn't say anything. Why do you feel?
I'm just saying.
Feel a little insecure? I'm 47, you know? I met him when I was 11 years old. For the better part of my adult life, I've been making music with him. It's one of those things where the chemistry kind of doesn't go away. The second we start writing music together, it doesn't take very long for it to just flow, and the rules never change. The expectations never change. What Tommy expects out of me as, you know, a singer and a guitar player and a songwriter, same as what I expect out of him. It's almost like it's a different language, for lack of a better analogy. We don't always know what we're doing, but we know when it's fucking good. We know when we both go, that's it. And we have those moments. And that's kind of where that chemistry, you know, if you will.
Plus, no one would put up with either one of us for this long, so there's no other choice. A couple of savage animals.
Yeah.
Shortly after the album was released, Spineshank embarked on a European tour with El Nino and Chimera. A show in the Netherlands was filmed on October 6 and was to become a DVD entitled Road Rage. Unfortunately, it was never officially released. As bittersweet as that is, it is now available to enjoy on YouTube. Check the link in the episode description. It's a great show and highlights everything the guys have been talking about their live energy performance. And so with those 20 years of reflection and growth, where does self-destructive patterns sit with you both today, personally and creatively, within your back catalogue of work?
Sometimes I'll go back and revisit, and I listen to it, and I'll go, what the fuck? That record was amazing. That was our best record. And then there's other times where I'm like, oh, what the hell? I'll listen to certain songs, and I'm like, what were we thinking? But I'm really proud of it. I think there was a lot of steps forward on that record to what we probably could have become as a band. It just sucks that we didn't get the chance to like further that, because everything just kind of fell apart after that. But I look at it as that was the end of that first era. I stand by it. I think we went down swinging, you know? I stand by that record.
I feel the same way. I'm extremely proud of that album. And, you know, like I listened to it, it's real easy for me to say, oh man, I wish I would have done this differently here and there. But you know what? I'm going to say that. I say that about every fucking record I did, because it's like, is the painting ever finished, you know? And I know Tom's the same way. We could have spent another $489,000 and we still would have seen bits and pieces of parts that we might have maybe done differently. But then we say that for the live show. But yeah, I do stand by that record. I think it was a pinnacle. The time that it came out in 2003, it was a very shining star in our community of bands. I will always be proud of that record. Just like Tommy said, he'll like listen to it, or I'll listen to, like, you know, I'll be fucking drunk and I'll text Tommy like, dude, fucking record was badass. Or he'll do the same thing. He'll be like, yeah, bro, I'm listening to that record right now. That was fucking awesome. We were fucking awesome. And that's a testament into itself right there, because being a band that's highly critical of their own work, it's nice to be able to call, you know, or talk to one of your bandmates and be like, man, we really hit it on the nail. Always be proud of that record. Always.
Amazing, man. Well, I really appreciate you both taking the time to celebrate one of your amazing albums and let's be honest, it's from a back catalogue of amazing releases. The fans, I know, really appreciate it and have a lot of love for you guys and the music, so on behalf of myself and them, thank you so much for your time and energy and joining the Life Is Peachy podcast to share your memories about self-destructive pattern.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you, man. Thank you for giving us a chance to look back on it, relive it a little bit. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, buddy. I gotta piss like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
care, man.
I appreciate you holding on, man.
It would look bad depending on what time I walked out of the room. But yeah, well, we were fighting a lot, and then Tommy leaves. Oh, he doesn't come back for 5 minutes. It's over again.
Hey, thanks a lot, David.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, bro.
There we have it, episode 28 of the Life Is Peachy podcast, my chat with Jonny and Tommy, and 20 years of self-destructive pattern. Next up, Is No Secret, episode 29 celebrates what I have coined as Taproot's avant-garde, nu metal sophomore welcome, and I'll be joined by bassist Phil Lipscomb. Phil actually has his own podcast, which recently featured an interview with both Jonny and Tommy. I'll also link that for you guys in the episode description. Wow. There seems like there's a lot of links for you guys to check out. So don't forget to do that. What's coming up for the Life Is Peachy podcast? If you head over to the Patreon, you will always be the first to know, and along with early guest and album reveals, there is additional episode content under the Michael Bolton tier. And so right now, exclusive through patreon.com/Life Is Peachy podcast, you can watch the video version of this interview under the Michael Bolton tier. Thank you to all my tip jar tier patrons, and a shout out to Darren, Philip, Danny, Shane, and of course the Lip Michael Bolton tier legends Majika, Vaginator, and Fly of Change. As mentioned at the beginning of the episode, any love over at Patreon really does help to make the necessary time that is required to write, record, and edit these episodes on top of my full-time job with Her Name Is Murder. More support means more time, and the most important thing, more episodes for you. Until we hang out again, I would love to take this chance to say a very big thank you for spending your time and energy with me today. Don't forget, I make YouTube playlists for each episode. I guess I should probably do the same over on Spotify. One day I'll get around to it, but until then, I am of course a visual person, so if you're feeling like a music video party or watching some epic concerts from the artists featured on the podcast, follow the YouTube link, you guessed it, in the episode description, and don't forget the popcorn, or a joint, or both. Whatever floats your boat, really, but there's a lot of fun playlists over there just waiting for you. Big love to you all. Have an amazing day.
See you at the party, Richter!
Yeah,
You know, I can eat a peach for hours.
This episode was written, edited, and produced by myself. Recorded from the comfort of my own home.
DIY style.
With each guest calling in from wherever they happen to be around the world at that particular time. The Life Is Peachy theme song is an original tune for this podcast, written by Tim Richardson.
The Life Is Peachy podcast is not monetized. All music rights and credits go to its rightful owners.
Further details can be found in the description of the specific episode. All artwork is original and illustrated for the Life Is Peachy podcast by Chris Lisa Liefting.